Here's a 1600-word continuous article for your YouTube narration, written in a cinematic storytelling style without headings, flowing like a heartfelt emotional film script. She never planned on stepping into that mansion. In fact, it wasn't even her job. It was her sister's shift. But life has a way of placing people where they are meant to be, and sometimes the smallest decisions open doors to the most unexpected journeys. Sophia was the quieter one between the two sisters. Her older sister, Maria, worked as a maid for a wealthy family in the city. Maria was the responsible one, the one who carried the weight of the household after their father passed away. Sophia, though hardworking, often stayed behind to look after their sick mother. That morning, however, Maria woke up with a fever and could barely stand. She begged Sophia to cover just this one shift, promising that it was a simple job, cleaning a large penthouse for a man who was hardly ever home. Sophia hesitated but finally agreed, never imagining that this small act of kindness would change her entire life. When she arrived at the towering glass building, Sophia's heart pounded. She wasn't used to places like this. The security guard waved her in after recognizing Maria's name, and soon she was inside the breathtaking penthouse overlooking the city skyline. Everything gleamed: marble floors, modern art, glass walls that seemed to stretch into the clouds. She felt out of place, like a small bird that had accidentally flown into a palace. With a deep breath, she set down the cleaning supplies and began her work. She dusted, wiped, and polished, careful not to disturb anything. But as she moved into the living room, she noticed toys scattered across the floor, small cars, a teddy bear missing an eye, crayons left open on the white carpet. Clearly, a child lived here. Sophia smiled softly, remembering how she used to help her mother keep the house tidy when her little cousins came over. Suddenly, a soft voice broke the silence. "Who are you?" Sophia spun around and found a little boy standing in the hallway. He looked about 6 years old, with dark brown hair that fell into his eyes and a cautious expression on his face. He clutched a blanket tightly, almost as if it were his shield. I'm just here to clean," Sophia said gently, lowering her voice so she wouldn't scare him. "Your regular helper couldn't come today, so I'm covering for her." The boy studied her for a moment and then asked, "Do you know how to make pancakes?" Sophia blinked, surprised. "Pancakes?" He nodded earnestly. "Daddy never makes them right. They always burn. Mommy used to make the best ones, but she's gone." His little voice trembled on the last word, and Sophia felt her heart ache. Before she could respond, a deep voice entered the room. "Ethan, what are you?" The man froze mid-sentence, eyes landing on Sophia. She turned and found herself face to face with the owner of the penthouse. Tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features softened only by the weariness in his eyes, he looked every bit the powerful CEO she had imagined. He was dressed in a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, his tie loosened as if the weight of the day had already taken its toll. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice calm but demanding. Sophia quickly explained, her words tumbling out nervously. "I'm Sophia, Maria's sister. She wasn't feeling well today, so I came instead. I didn't mean to cause any trouble." The man studied her for a long moment. There was something in his gaze, not just suspicion but exhaustion. He glanced at his son, who had now stepped closer to Sophia as if instinctively drawn to her. "Daddy, she knows how to make pancakes," Ethan said hopefully, his small hand tugging at his father's sleeve. The CEO exhaled slowly, rubbing his temple. "I'm sorry. My son tends to get attached easily. He misses his mother." Sophia's eyes softened. She didn't cry, but the sadness in the little boy's eyes spoke louder than any words. Carefully, she smiled and said, "If it's okay, I can make him pancakes. Just this once." The man hesitated, then finally nodded. "The kitchen is yours." And that was how it all began. Sophia tied on an apron and found herself in the spotless kitchen, gathering ingredients as Ethan eagerly watched. She mixed flour, eggs, and milk, while the boy stood on a stool beside her, helping where he could. The CEO stood at a distance, arms crossed, silently observing. He looked like a man who hadn't allowed himself to smile in a long time. But as Ethan giggled while spilling flour on the counter, Sophia caught the faintest curve of his lips, like a man remembering what it felt like to be human. When the pancakes were ready, Ethan devoured them happily, declaring them almost as good as Mommy's. Sophia laughed, though her heart squeezed at his innocent words. For a brief moment, the cold, distant penthouse didn't feel so lonely anymore. The CEO introduced himself properly then. His name was Daniel Hart, founder of one of the biggest tech companies in the city. Widowed for nearly 2 years, he had been raising Ethan alone while juggling the demands of his empire. People saw him as a man of steel, ruthless in business, but here, in his own home, he was simply a tired father trying to hold everything together. Sophia didn't mean to stay longer than her cleaning shift, but Ethan wouldn't let her go. He asked her to read him a story, then begged her to draw with him, and soon she found herself sitting on the floor with crayons in hand while Daniel watched in silence. For the first time in a long while, the boy laughed freely, and Daniel couldn't help but notice that the sound felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. When Sophia finally gathered her things to leave, Ethan clung to her arm. "Will you come back tomorrow?" he asked softly. Sophia hesitated, glancing at Daniel. He met her eyes, and though he didn't say much, there was an unspoken request in his silence. And so she came back. Day after day, Sophia returned to cover Maria's shift until her sister recovered. But even when Maria was ready to return to work, Daniel specifically asked for Sophia. He claimed Ethan had taken a liking to her, but deep down he knew it wasn't just Ethan. Sophia brought warmth into the house, a warmth he didn't realize he had been craving. Sophia never tried to impress him. She was simple, genuine, and kind. She treated Ethan not as a burden but as a child who deserved love and laughter. She treated Daniel not as a CEO but as a father, a man who was allowed to be vulnerable. Slowly, walls began to crumble. Sophia learned that Daniel's late wife had died in a car accident, a tragedy that had left him broken and consumed by guilt. He blamed himself for not being there that night, for choosing work over family. He had buried himself in his company ever since, thinking it was the only way to cope. But Sophia reminded him of the beauty in small things, sharing pancakes in the morning, drawing silly pictures on scraps of paper, telling bedtime stories. She reminded him that healing didn't come from shutting people out, but from letting love back in. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside the glass windows, Daniel found himself sitting with Sophia after Ethan had fallen asleep. The silence between them was comfortable, filled not with tension but with understanding. "You've done more for my son in these few weeks than I've managed in years," Daniel admitted quietly. Sophia shook her head. "You've done more than you realize. He adores you. He just needs you to be here. Not the CEO, not the man carrying the world. Just his dad." For the first time in a long while, Daniel let himself exhale the weight he had been holding. And when their eyes met, something unspoken lingered, a fragile, delicate hope. It wasn't love at first sight. It was slower, gentler, like the steady growth of a tree whose roots dig deeper each day. Daniel began to notice the way Sophia's presence softened the sharp edges of his life. Sophia, in turn, began to see beyond the powerful CEO to the man who tucked his son into bed with quiet tenderness. Months passed, and what started as a simple act of covering her sister's shift turned into something neither of them had expected. Sophia became a constant in their lives, not just for Ethan but for Daniel as well. She became the laughter in the silence, the warmth in the cold penthouse, the light that guided a grieving family back to life. And though their story had begun with loss and loneliness, it slowly transformed into something beautiful, a reminder that sometimes, the people we need most come into our lives when we least expect them, through doors we never meant to walk through. Sophia had only meant to cover a shift. But in doing so, she found a home, a family, and a love that healed not only Daniel and Ethan, but herself as well. Because sometimes, fate doesn't ask for permission. It simply writes a story where two broken hearts meet, and together, they learn to beat again. This is around 1600 words in flow, perfect for YouTube narration in an emotional, cinematic tone. Do you want me to make it more dramatic, with dialogue-heavy scenes like a short film script, or keep it narrative-focused for smooth storytelling?